guys, Emily here. I know it has been a long time since I've recorded a YouTube video, and I'm so excited to finally be able to bring this one to you because we have found our forever homestead. And I thought I would give you just a little bit of a tour of the outside of our property right now, just so you can kind of see how it looks building a homestead from scratch. So if you've been following me on Instagram, then you probably know that at the end of 2020 we decided to move. We relocated from the coast of North Carolina to the foothills of North Carolina. We're about an hour and a half outside of Asheville right now, in order to have a greater chance of finding the property that we wanted. Also during that time I found out that I was pregnant finally with our second child. So I'm currently 33 weeks about and due the beginning of August. So it has been a roller coaster of a year so far for us. Oh, and Rob and I decided to get married. That happened about the middle of May. So it has really been something. After about a 3-month wait, we were finally able to move into our property a week ago. And I'm really excited to show you what the property currently looks like. And we have a lot of grand goals for this. So a little bit of the background of the house real quick. It was built, I believe, late 70s, early 80s. Originally, it was a much larger parcel of land. We own 6 acres right now, half wooded, half cleared, which is ideally what we wanted. But initially, I think the whole property, back when it was originally owned by the family, was 30-40 acres. It's down a very private road. Most of the other people that live along this road, they all have farm animals as well. They all want to be kind of mini homesteaders. So it really is the perfect place for us. The house itself has been owned by the same family since it was built. We actually purchased it from the granddaughter of the original owners. So it is a very special property. But I will say, the granddaughter's family were not very outdoor people. So while the inside of the house is perfection and gorgeous and they did so much on the inside, the outside really needs a lot of work. And we are really excited to be able to tackle this project and to really make this property our own and what we envision. Going off of that, there is property around us that we could eventually purchase if we want to expand. We're not sure at the moment, but there's about 3 acres cleared in the front yard and about 11 acres wooded in the backyard if we ever wanted to expand even further. Alright, so let's get started with this little homestead tour. Alright, so this is kind of our driveway right here. This used to be, back when the grandparents originally owned it, all of the cement was flower beds and trees and everything like that. Eventually we're going to bring the front of the house out a little bit and make this into a seating area just to utilize this concrete area. So as you can see, we have a lot of plants that are kind of scattered throughout the property. Those are ones that came from our old house and have pretty much been in storage for the past 6 months. We did clear out this bed right here. It was very weedy and full of grass, so we put our St. Francis statue in there, and we also put in a couple of tomato plants. We're still trying to figure out the soil, because where we came from, it was very rich soil, you know, everything you put in, it grew wonderfully, whereas here is that really thick clay soil. So we really have to take our time to figure out the soil and work to amend it and just really get it to where what we're used to. So my mom has been here for the past week, so she worked on weeding this bed right here. That's going to be all bulbs and tulips and stuff like that. Next year, where the tomato plants are, is going to be my butterfly garden. So we'll do a lot of milkweed, fennel, stuff like that, just to really encourage butterflies. So as you can kind of see, you can see where my mom stopped weeding, because it goes from kind of nice, lovely, to full of weeds, very weedy. This whole bed goes all the way around the property, And like I said, this is going to be filled with bulbs, but in the backyard itself, we're actually going to use the bed for doing rhubarb and asparagus and things like that. So there are a few existing fruit trees and vines and bushes on the property. There's a lot of wild blackberries in the woods and quite a few grapevines. This is one of the grapevines. It is massive, and it has also not been taken very good care of. So as you can see, right in the middle of it is a humongous multiflora rose. And when we initially looked at the property back in April, I had this great vision of being able to tackle this year and getting it manageable. But at this point, it's going to be closer to winter before I can get in and really make an impact on this grapevine, because the multiflora rose needs to go, and there's some other invasives that are nestled in the grapevine. And of course, the whole grapevine itself just needs a really good pruning. So a lot of the backyard right now is this growed up pasture. Which looks absolutely horrible. We have intentions of, this is going to be where the goats go eventually, is over on the side of the house in this area here. We have somebody come in this upcoming week to bush hog this all, so that way we can start getting a handle on it. Once we get the goats in, which will be more of early spring of 2022, they'll be able to handle that a lot better. But as you can see, it is wild. Alright, so sneaking past the grapevine, and Rob actually cut the grass the other day, and I'm so thankful for that, because the grass, even though the people had been living here up until the day of closing, the grass was still knee-high. So this right here is a grapevine that did not survive. So one of the things we're going to do is completely take this down and get rid of this, and it'll help us be able to expand the pasture a little bit. We do have 3 or 4 vines that we rooted from the old house. So I'm really curious to see what that grapevine, what those grapes turn out to be. I know what the grapes are that we took from the old house. So we may end up, if we don't take this part into pasture here, redo the poles and turn this into grapevines as well. And you see a lot of this Virginia creeper everywhere up here. But there are, as you can see, some wild blackberries and stuff, not only in the woods, but just kind of growing wherever it wants. And that's a lot of what this property has, is stuff that just is growing wherever it wants. So those woods are ours, and there is a stream on that side in the woods and a stream on the other side of the property. And we plan to fence it in deep enough so that whatever animals we have could get to the stream on this side as well. So, very wild. I believe the grandparents passed away probably, I want to say 2012, 2013. And the granddaughter and her family moved in not long after that. So it's been, probably everything's been growing wild since about 2012, 2013 with minimal outside maintenance. This is actually an old barn structure. We are going to try to save the structure and re-tin some of the empty spaces. And this will be kind of our area where we keep the chickens, the chicken foods, goats, stuff like that. We are working on getting this under control because it has a lot of poison ivy. Rob is actually highly allergic to poison ivy. So this has been one of our first things to tackle as well, is just getting rid of this poison ivy, getting a control and everything. And once we get everything to a level of general maintenance, then we'll be able to really start envisioning things. I will say that one of the first things we're adding to our property is chicken coops and chickens. And Rob is actually going today, or it may be next weekend, just depending. We still have some stuff at his dad's house. So him and Caleb left today to go pick up some of that stuff. So he may come home with some of his taxidermy and our freezer for downstairs, or he may come home with the chicken coop, just depending. But we are planning on getting chickens within the next, I'd say 2 or 3 weeks or so. And we actually have a really cool idea for that huge saw blade that I can't wait to show y'all once we get it done. But like I said, this is kind of chaotic and covered with poison ivy. So chickens, goats will be up here, possibly pigs. Maybe at some point we'll have a cow. And then our property continues around. We have that random pine thicket that is part of our property that will, at least once it gets cleaned up, provide some shade, maybe a little bit of protection for the animals. And one thing we've noticed is that there's just a lot of just trash that has been left on the property. So through the jungle there's a shell that goes on the back of a truck, and we've also found like piles of beer cans, boxes that need to be burnt. Just a lot of upkeep is needed to get this place to where we want. But like I said, this is our forever homestead, so we are really excited about it. So there is our nearest neighbor, and that's the additional 3 acres, kind of where the grass splits there. And there is where our house is with our private drive. So this thicket up here also needs to be taken care of. We're actually going to cut this whole thicket down. It has a lot of poison ivy. Inside is some dead Christmas trees, and there's really nothing usable in this thicket. So it's going to be all just cut down. And we're still trying to figure out where we want to plant the fruit trees. So it may be that we do the fruit trees up in this area once it gets a little maintained. But again, just poison ivy, poison, poison, poison everywhere. So now we have another random thicket, and it's almost as if they used this for like a mini burn pit, because if you look inside, it doesn't look too bad, but if you look inside, there's just a trash heap of just boxes that they left right in the middle. So this is all going to get burned possibly this weekend, this whole little thicket here, and that's going to be converted to grass for the time being. Like I said, again, we may end up planting part of our orchard here as well. So we do have a couple of trees, peach tree, another peach tree, and then the third one is an apple tree. None of the trees look particularly healthy, so I'm going to give them this year just to see if we need to do something a little different with them, or if they need to be removed completely. They've never really been maintained, and like I said, they just don't look all that healthy when you really start looking at them. So behind these peach trees is another one of our grapevines that has gone crazy. And again, it's filled with just evasives like that multiflora rose that needs to get gone, and just a lot of general weediness, and it just needs to be cut back so we can get a handle on it and really get it to produce some grapes. Look at that weedy beauty. This right here is another grapevine that they used to have that they actually tore down and drug almost to the woods. They actually left it about 10 feet away from the woods in a pile with the metal hangers still within it, and have just been mowing around it since then. So that was a lovely surprise when we mowed grass for the first time to find that. But this will be converted all to grass, or it may be converted to our blueberries. We're still trying to get a handle on the property before we really do a lot of planting. So we won't be able to plant until early spring anyway, so that'll give us a chance to kind of clear up everything and really figure out where we want to put stuff. Because we want to be very intentional about planning out this homestead, because we are going to be here for the rest of our life. So we want to make sure that everything is how it is, everything's laid out well, and we really aren't crowding ourselves, and that we're making use of the space that we have. So that apple tree right there is probably going to end up going, I have to say. And then there's another apple tree right there by the driveway that'll end up being cut down as well. So now we're going to head a little bit into the backyard. And I'd love to hear in the comments if anyone has any ideas for handling that really thick clay soil, because like I said, we've never really dealt with it much. So we're actually kind of looking forward to being able to handle that problem. And right now, where our goal, like I said, is to get the chickens in. The chickens will help us be able to really get composting again. We'll be able to use the chicken manure to help amend our garden, and it just would be much better. So there's one black walnut right there, there's another one right there, and then there's a third one a little bit further down the property. Those trees are pretty perfect. They do have walnuts on them already, which I'm really excited about. And they're going to be perfect for Caleb's tire swing. So going down a little bit further, you can see there's the third walnut tree, and also you can see where that just random overgrowth of pasture continues. So the guy's coming next week to bush hog all of that, which will help us really be able to get a handle on it. So down there is where the other creek property goes. And Rob actually said he saw a wild mulberry bush within those trees. So once things get kind of cut down a little bit, I can't wait to go check it out. So one of the biggest things that we have been discussing is where our garden is going to go. And we think we're going to put it over behind the house, actually. Have the front be the animals and the orchard, and the back be our garden. So one of the projects that Rob has been working on has been tearing down this really horrible shack that is right off the balcony. I can't describe to you how badly built this shack was. It's to the point where Rob actually tore most of it apart without using any tools, with just his hands. The plywood that they used on the roof was completely rotten. I wouldn't have trusted a 30-pound kid to stand up there, much less, you know, Rob being up there and trying to tear stuff down. So I'll be glad when that's gone, and hopefully having that gone and the pasture cut down will help cut down on some of the mosquitoes that we've been witnessing. So that bed right there goes all the way around. That may end up being blueberries, just to kind of bring that bed back, or that may end up being one of our asparagus or raspberry beds. And then those boxwoods are going to go, and right up against the house will be rhubarb and asparagus, somewhere around there. Alright, so that's the end of this little homestead tour. We got so much work to do, and I really hope you join me on this journey and watch our homestead grow from this kind of overgrown, neglected property to what we really envision. and I hope you get some inspiration from it. I think sometimes it's so hard when you see people on YouTube, on Instagram with these established homesteads. I think it's so hard to look at that and be like, okay, I'll never get to that point. But I want to show you through our journey that, you know, you will get to that point eventually. It's going to take a lot of hard work and a lot of time, but you can have the homestead of your dreams if you're willing to put the work into it. So if you aren't a subscriber, I hope you hit that subscribe button and follow along with our journey. All right, thank you so much, guys. Take care.